Hey, it's me. Full transparency. I've been struggling, not for any particular reason. Mm, not entirely true. I've been struggling to show up. After I changed this from less Fox Friday to less Fox anytime, I disappeared. And that wasn't the only place I disappeared. That was just the most recent place I disappeared. So why the disappearing act? A variety of stories, which brought up initially, I would say a manufactured confusion and fogginess, like, oh, I don't really know why that's happening. It must be the moon. It must be whatever's going on out in the cosmos. Don't get me wrong. I love a good astrology reading. I am a firm believer in the lunar cycle allowing us to find our own rhythm. I practice a lot out in nature because it feels comforting and because it slows me down. The manufactured confusion was covering up anger and resentment. I'm laughing because I can see the cards and they're spot on. Um, the manufactured fogginess and confusion was covering up anger and resentment. And when those come up in me, my first instinct is always, where's the asshole? I must be mad. Somebody must have done something. Somebody must have crossed a boundary. Somebody must have done something to piss me off because this isn't who I am. This isn't how I want to show up. This isn't what's most important to me to be angry. Oh, what's most important to me is to feel my feelings. I don't like this feeling. I don't like this feeling of anger. I don't like this feeling of resentment. Where is it coming from so I can stop it? One of the things I recognized in that little cesspool of anger and resentment is that I've been bypassing my own uncomfortable emotions. Why? Because the story I tell myself is I always need to have it together. I always is the first clue because that's an absolute, and absolutes usually indicate a lack of clarity, a lack of discernment. Because if everybody always does this, or you never do that, or they always, or he never, like those are very binary black and white. There's no nuance. And I'd say 98% of life is the nuance in between those things. Anyway, allowing myself to feel my anger and resentment and recognizing that I don't really want to point it at anybody because it doesn't belong to anybody except me. What am I angry at? Who am I angry at? Myself. What am I resenting? Resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die, is what I hear. And what I'm resenting is an old story that everybody around me is thriving and prospering, and everybody around me is doing it right. And everybody around me is singing from the rooftops how great life is. And I'm the one still standing here holding all the shit that everybody has dropped at my feet so that they can feel better. Can't even say this with a straight face. So that they can feel better. And I'm the one stuck carrying everybody else's shit. That is an old victim story that I thought I was done with. So part of the frustration in recognizing where this is coming from is, come on, Aren't we done with this already? And the answer is no, apparently we're not. So, so these are the cards, and now they're pissing me off. Why? Because under my anger and my resentment is shame. Shame that once again I've dropped the ball. Shame that once again I find myself here in this emotional state of just stagnancy, uh, congestion, but not nasal congestion, like physical, energetic congestion. And some people that I've talked to say, well, that's the pulling back of the bow. Like you're getting ready to launch myself, not anything specific, but like I'm getting ready to up level, I'm getting ready to launch. And this is the bow being drawn and pulled back so that when it lets go, I can shoot like an arrow off to the horizon. Doesn't that sound amazing? Yep, sounds great. What if I don't want to shoot off to the horizon? What if I just want to stop feeling shame? Okay, then stop feeling shame. Stop buying into the story. Yep, great. Easier said than done. And when it comes right down to it, one of the deepest aspects of this shame is that it's of my own making. I'm the one that is shaming myself for not doing any of the things that I say are important. When I do this work with people, when I invite people to pull a card and find some clarity and be honest with themselves, I'm coming from a place of genuine empathy and curiosity and solidarity because I've been there. I've been at the what the hell just happened? Who did it and ran? And why am I holding this handbasket? Hell in a handbasket? Going to hell in a handbasket? I'm not supposed to be the one who doesn't have clarity. I'm not supposed to be the one who says, how the fuck do I know? I'm just doing my best to keep my nose above the waterline. And when I take a big step back and look, I mean, I'm I'm not only doing okay, I- I'm from outside looking in, I'm doing great. Then what's the issue? I honestly am not 100% sure. What I do know is that this shame that I thought I was over and done with, woo, took care of that. Thank goodness. um, it's reared its ugly head, and I can buy into it and I can wallow in it and I can say, oh, I'm so ashamed of not being able to show up the ways that I want to show up. I'm so ashamed of telling everybody these things that turned out not to be true. I'm so that in itself isn't true. Because what I still believe in the depths of my heart, in the depths of my knowing, of my intuition, of my soul, what I still believe is that each of us gets to choose. And if that's true, then why am I choosing shame? Why am I choosing something that feels awful. And then I say, what if I'm not choosing it? Because I have friends that are like, oh, have you read Existential Kink? That is an existential kink. Like, what is here for me in this shame? What am I reveling in this shame? Do I get to tell myself the story again about how I'm just pretending and I'm an imposter and I'm really the victim? Like, Jesus Christ, talk about being sick of your own bullshit. What if it's not what I'm choosing? What if it's just the default setting? Okay, then what am I going to choose? Am I going to choose to keep talking about it? Because that seems to be really effective. Am I going to choose to pretend it's not happening and slap on a mask and say, hey, had a little bit of a rough patch, but I'm good now. How can I help you? That's not it either, because I truly believe that we can only serve others in the capacity to which we serve ourselves. People can disagree with that. I've put out sentiments in that vein recently, and other people have shot me down pretty quickly. That's not true. My mother took care of everyone and she loved it. She volunteered and she taught me that you just got to get up every morning and wash your face and brush your teeth and you'll feel better. Which, by the way, was one of my mother's favorite get over yourself lines. Just wash your face and brush your teeth and you'll feel better. And there's a kernel of truth in that. And also, you know, uh, sometimes this is just the way it feels. Sometimes this is just the way I feel. So if it's true that I get to choose, then am I going to choose to pretend I feel okay? Am I going to choose to sit in this mess and just wallow in it and be miserable? Am I going to choose something in between? What would that look like? So I pulled two cards, and because the Rebel deck is the Rebel deck, the spicy, zesty, mouthy deck, I got two good ones. This one showed up first, Time to Let Go, and it's upside down. And on the back it says, move the fox on. Let go of the story, let go of the old version, let go of what I wished, what I thought, let go of my narrative around being a victim. I'm certainly not a victim, maybe of myself. I'm a victim of myself, of my own undoing, I guess. Um, Let go of the worry. This came up in a conversation I'm a part of on a weekly basis. It's a great group. And one of the women brought forward, like, why am I so worried? If now is all we have and tomorrow is not guaranteed to any of us, why am I spending my energy whipping myself into a frenzy and panicking about all these things that are probably never going to come to fruition? Why am I getting myself into that mindset, which is uh, very scarce, very lacking? Why am I allowing myself to be so stressed if I have a choice and I know that now is all we have? There's no guarantee for any of us what the next 5 minutes will bring. Let go of the worry. Okay, easier said than done. And also, it's a practice. This is why we practice. And whether you practice meditation, whether you practice mindfulness, whether you practice magic, whether you practice writing, whether you practice creating, whether you practice powerlifting or movement or whatever is your thing. This is why we practice when everything feels a little bit shitty. This is why we practice, not to trick ourselves out of it, but to lead ourselves through it, to find our way back out of the maze and say, oh, yeah, this isn't how I want to show up anymore. It served me well, but it doesn't serve me any longer. This card I played, this victim card, used to be really good at getting me what I thought I needed, which was for people to pay attention. And I was really good at it. And I don't want to show up that way anymore. So time to let go of the story for me. Time to move the fox on. Okay, what does that look like? It looks like recognizing that there's so much nuance in between the black and white of everything's amazing or everything sucks. There's so much nuance in between. There's definitely something in there that I would rather be. There's definitely a way of moving through the world that I would rather be carrying right now. Okay, what is that? What is that way? And this is why I was laughing, because here's the other card. Stop foxing whining. No one wants to listen to that shit. Complaining makes you weak. You have the strength to change your world. So do it. I want to make a note here. You have the strength to change your world. So do it. That is 1,000% true. We cannot fathom the idea of changing the world, right? There's 8.3 billion people here. And if most of those people don't care to see things the way that I care to see things, they are welcome to their perspectives. They can navigate the world in the ways that they choose to. It's their world. This is my world. How do I want to navigate through my world? Do I want to keep running into my own obstacles headlong and creating chaos and confusion? Do I want to create manufactured urgency and say to people, this thing is going to happen whether you want it or not. This thing is going to, I'm not even sure what else to say about this except to stop foxing whining. Nobody wants to listen to that shit. Here's the thing. There's a difference between asking for what we need and bitching about why we don't have what we think we need. There's a difference between saying, hey, I could really use some help right now, and nobody ever pays attention to me, and I feel like I could just fall off the face of the earth and nobody would care. If you really believe that and that feels strong for you, please reach out to someone. Please phone a friend. Please talk to a support person. Please get some help. There are people who are here to help you. And I am not dismissing or demeaning depression, mental health issues. I mean, look, we live in uncertain times. We live in times where things are going at 83,000 miles a second, and our brains are not wired for that. We're bombarded constantly with so much information and misinformation and disinformation. Don't get me started on the AI. I'm not here to demean or dismiss what anyone else is feeling. I am simply saying that we can keep buying into our own stories, or we can say, you know what, for this minute, for this next 60 seconds, I'm going to choose to do it differently. For this next 60 seconds, I'm going to ask myself, what's most important to me? How do I want to show up? Who do I want to be? I might spend more than 60 seconds on that. I might write down a few ideas. I might call a friend and say, this is going to sound crazy, but what if, what if I, what if I just show up differently? And I'm not suggesting that you have to take on a persona. I'm not suggesting that you have to pretend your way through anything. I despise the phrase fake it till you make it, because how do we know when we've ever made it? At the same time, if we keep choosing what we've chosen, we're going to keep getting what we've always got. If I keep choosing to believe that I should be ashamed because this is where I happen to be in this moment in time, if I keep choosing shame, then shame wins. If I keep disappearing and isolating myself and not saying anything and not reaching out to people and not inviting people and not engaging with people, I mean, I say this is why I'm here. And if I'm not being in the ways that are why I'm here, if that even makes sense, then what am I doing? I'm buying in, I'm perpetuating the shame cycle, I'm perpetuating the story. And a friend I hold very dear reminded me recently that awareness is the first step. So when I am aware that I'm feeling this ick underneath the anger and the resentment and the frustration and all the words and all the performative, I'm so mad I could blah, 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 blah. Really? Am I? No, I'm not mad. I'm not even sad. There's a sadness that accompanies it, kind of a grief, I guess. Grief feels too heavy. There's a sadness, but I'm not like, it's not overwhelming me. The sadness is not upon me. It's just something I'm noticing at the edges. It really is about shame. And I can choose to keep feeling shame and keep buying into shame, or I can remember something that I've heard Brene Brown say, which is that shame thrives in darkness. Shame loves when we isolate ourselves, when we don't ask our people for support, when we don't show up and say, I'm really struggling right now. Shame thrives in secrecy. And in AA, they say we're only as sick as our secrets. So if I'm keeping shame my dirty little secret, I'm allowing it to fester. I'm allowing it to continue to be the resentment that I'm drinking, the poison that I'm drinking. Because there's really nothing to resent. What would I say to someone that I'm working with? What would I say to a client? I would say, please give every bit of you all the love and compassion that you would so generously offer to your best friend, to your beloved. Please give that to yourself and recognize that even when shame is sitting right next to me, even when shame is sitting in my lap, I can choose to say, hey, I see you. Thank you for showing up strongly enough that I'm paying attention. Because this one took a little while to come on. This round took a little while to land. And I was able to pretend that all was well until I wasn't. Thank you for showing up strongly enough to help me pay attention. And thank you for helping me remind myself that I get to choose. So how do we disrupt the shame? There are a lot of long-term ways, a lot of work that people do over the course of our lives. And this work is lifelong. If we choose it, we don't always have to choose it. Sometimes it's okay to just rest and say, I just need to catch my breath before we dust off and get back into the arena. There are long-term ways to unplug the shame jukebox for now, because it'll get plugged in again because we're hashtag human beings. And we'll hopefully recognize it sooner next time. I will hopefully recognize it sooner next time. In the meantime, when I recognize that ick shame feeling, that, ugh, this is really uncomfortable, I can take a deep breath. I can tune in and feel my hands. I can feel my fingertips and thumb tips rubbing together. I can feel what the breath coming in my nose feels like. I can feel what the breath coming out of my mouth feels like. I can tune in to those small sensations that bring me back to this present moment. And I can say, okay, yep, I feel shame. It's not what I want. So this is what I'm doing differently. And this recording, this long ramble, this vulnerability is what I'm doing differently today. So if you've stuck around this long and you're hearing all of this, first, thank you. Thank you for coming with me on this rambly walk. Second, if you feel like you get this, if you're raising your hand or putting your hand on your heart or wiping your eyes and saying, Jesus, me too, me too. I get you. I get you. You are not alone. And if you'd like to pull a card and see what comes up for you and start a deeper conversation with you, that is one way that vulnerability feels a little less frightening, is by inviting yourself just to have a chat, just to sit down and have a cup of tea and say, hey, how are you being? If you'd like to do that, if you're on YouTube, look down in the I don't know, the description or whatever it's called, where I say what this is, and I'll have a link there. You can find a time to do a reading with me. No cost. It's a free 3-card reading. And if you're on Instagram, go to the bio link and find the button that says free 3-card reading. In either case, if you cannot find a time that suits you on that schedule, please let me know and let's make it happen. Because that is why I'm here. And it is what I do. It's time to let go of the story. Move the fox on. That's the one that wants our attention the most. And in the meantime, I am going to stop foxing whining. Complaining makes me weak. And complaining is not the same as sharing with a friend who cares. You know those people. I know those people too. They're few and far between. Those are the unicorns, and they're gems, they're treasures. Reach out to that person and say, hey, have you got a few minutes? I don't really need anything from you. I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I don't need advice. I just really want to be heard for a few minutes. This is what's going on. You have the strength to change your world. And I am inviting you to start. You don't have to do it all right away. We can't do it all right away. It's not the end. And until then, it's all right because here we still are. We can't always have it all figured out because we have no idea what's going to happen next. We like to think we know. Our brains love that certainty. Certainty is not clarity. Certainty is an illusion because whatever happens in the next 5 minutes, we really don't know. When you remember who you want to be, how you want to show up, what's most important to you, that's where the strength comes in. That's where you know you have your own back and that you can change your world one conscious choice at a time. All right. This time I mean it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you have stayed till now, bravo. And I appreciate your listening. I'll be back again sometime soon because it's not Less Fox Friday anymore. Apparently, it's Less Fox whenever. Still looking for a name for that. If you've got an idea, let me know. Until we see each other again, however that is, please take the very best care of you.